As we spoke with the defendant just days before his indictment, he said something very curious to us when we asked about Theresa. Through his denials that he had ever known her name, who she was, he made what he treated kind of a flippant observation about the 1980s. He said, people got away with murder back then. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Bilodeau. It's 2025, and I got you now.
A warning to our viewers. What you are about to watch is a true story. The following program contains content that some viewers may find disturbing. Viewer discretion is strongly advised. October 15th, 2025. A Tuesday morning in Mineola, New York. A press conference room in the Nassau County District Attorney's Office. Cameras, prosecutors, retired detectives who came back specifically for this. A podium, a name about to be spoken out loud for the first time. Thomas Fusco is standing next to the district attorney. He is in a suit. At some point during the proceedings, he reaches into his jacket pocket and takes out a small photograph. The photograph is of a 16-year-old girl. He has been carrying it for 41 years. His wife is not standing beside him. Concetta Napoli died in 2019. She spent the last years of her life without knowing the name of the man who killed her daughter, and then she died still not knowing it. She died waiting. Thomas Fusco waited too. This is what 41 years of waiting looks like when it finally arrives at something. A man in a suit, a photograph in a pocket. A room full of people who are about to hear a name that should have been spoken decades ago. 3 innocent men went to prison for what was done to his daughter. They served 18 years each. The man who actually killed her lived 1 mile from the roller rink where she worked. He was 23 years old in 1984. He became 63 years old in custody. In the intervening years, he worked nights and gambled on sports and apparently believed what he told investigators the week before his arrest. People got away with murder back then. He was right. And then a straw in a trash can on a public street said otherwise. Welcome to Dr. Depravity. 3 men served 18 years in prison for a crime the man 1 mile away had committed. The same DNA that freed them is the DNA that finally found him. Subscribe and stay with me, because what the Nassau County DA's office did to maintain those convictions after the evidence said they were wrong is something that needs to be said out loud. Now, back to Lynbrook, 1984. Her name was Theresa Fusco. She was 16 years old, a junior at East Rockaway High School in Lynbrook, Long Island. She roller skated at a rink called Hot Skates on the weekends because Hot Skates was where you went if you were a teenager in Lynbrook in 1984. Her closest friend, Lisa Kaplan, said they always tried to dress similarly. Another friend, Vicky Papagno, lived too far away to see regularly, so they wrote letters. Before anything moved quickly, they wrote letters on stationery. A letter from Theresa, dated 1982, still exists. Postmarked Lynbrook, New York. It reads, Dear Vicky, hi, what's up? Nothing much here. When are you going to visit Kelly again? When you do, call me. Okay? How's all the boys there? They cute? That is Theresa Fusco, 16 years old, writing letters about boys, roller skating on the weekends, a junior at East Rockaway High School, with a close family and plans for her future. She had gotten herself a job at Hot Skates working the snack bar counter, which put her at the center of the thing that mattered most to teenagers in Lynbrook. She had a father named Thomas, a mother named Concetta, a brother named John. The other friend, the one in the letter, the one she asked Vicky to call when she came to visit, was a girl named Kelly Morrissey. Remember Kelly Morrissey. We will come back to her. On Saturday, November 10th, 1984, Theresa Fusco had a shift at the snack bar at Hot Skates. Something happened that night. She was fired from her job. The exact details are not in the public record. What is documented is what came after. At approximately 9:45 in the evening, she was seen leaving the roller rink on foot, walking in the direction of home. Home was only a few blocks away. She was walking down the street in tears. She never arrived. Thomas Fusco waited. When it got late, and she still wasn't home, the calls started. her brother, her mother, her friends. No one had seen her after 9:45. She was reported missing that night. On December 5, 1984, 25 days after she was last seen, her body was found in a wooded area near the Long Island Railroad tracks in Lynbrook, not far from Hot Skates. She had been covered with leaves and debris. She was naked. The medical examiner determined she had been strangled with a ligature. She had also been sexually assaulted. At the autopsy, the medical examiner collected evidence from her body. Biological material was present. Among the items logged and placed in a Nassau County property room that day, a vaginal swab. That swab is going to appear 3 more times in this story. Remember it. Theresa Fusco should be 57 years old today. She should have graduated from East Rockaway High School. She should have written back to Vicky. She should have grown up alongside Lisa and Kelly and the people who loved her, and chosen things to do with her life, and grown old. She was walking home from work on a Saturday night, crying, a few blocks from her front door. That is all it took. Nassau County, in 1984, was already under pressure. Theresa was not the only young woman to disappear in the area that year. Her friend Kelly Morrissey had gone missing 5 months earlier. A third teenager, Jacqueline Martorella, had also vanished. 3 young women from the same community, the same year, gone without explanation. The Nassau County Police Department needed an answer, and they needed it quickly. Detective Joseph Volpe was assigned to the homicide. He was, by all accounts, a determined investigator. He was also, a federal jury would find 40 years later, someone who planted and withheld evidence. In early 1985, an informant came forward with a tip that a local man named John Restivo had made suspicious statements about the case. Restivo was brought in for questioning. He was interrogated for 24 hours. According to court findings, he was physically assaulted during that time. Eventually, under what the courts later described as extreme pressure, he mentioned the name of someone who worked for him, John Kogut. John Kogut was 21 years old. He worked in Restivo's moving business. He was arrested on March 26, 1985. He was subjected to multiple polygraph examinations and told by detectives that he had failed each one. He maintained his innocence. Hour after hour, interrogation after interrogation, he said he had nothing to do with Theresa Fusco. After nearly 18 hours, Detective Volpe produced a confession. It was not written in Kogut's hand. It was written in the detective's hand. The document that emerged was the 6th version of the statement, the first 5 having never been committed to paper. The 6th version, once Kogut signed it, named Dennis Halstead and John Restivo as the men who had raped Theresa. The following day, the confession was recorded on videotape. It contained no details about the crime that had not already been given to Kogut by detectives. He could not point to the location of Theresa's clothing. He could not identify the murder weapon. He could not direct investigators to anything they did not already know. The confession had been constructed, and then it was signed. Dennis Halstead was 31 years old, a local contractor with a wife and 5 children. His name appeared in the confession as one of the men involved. He was arrested. He was interrogated for 15 hours, across 6 statements, maintaining his innocence throughout. The 6th version implicated him. He signed it. John Restivo's van, a blue van he used for his moving business, was identified by prosecutors as the vehicle used in the crime. 2 hairs found in the front passenger seat were presented to the jury as microscopically similar to Theresa Fusco's. An analyst testified that the questioned hair could have originated from the scalp of Theresa Fusco, with a high degree of probability. The defense presented witnesses who testified to a fact that did not change, regardless of who believed the hairs. John Restivo's van had been up on blocks the night of the murder. The brakes had failed. The van was not drivable. Not that night. Not for some time around that night. It was physically incapable of being at the scene. In 1986, all 3 men were convicted. John Kogut was sentenced to 31.5 years to life. Halstead and Restivo received similar sentences. Three men, none of whom knew each other as friends, none of whom had any prior association with Theresa Fusco, were going to prison, some of them for the rest of their lives. Thomas Fusco had three names. What he was supposed to feel was resolution. The DNA evidence told a different story, beginning in the early 1990s, when Kogut's defense team requested testing of the biological material from Theresa's autopsy. The results came back clear. The DNA profile recovered from Theresa's body did not match John Kogut, did not match Dennis Halstead, did not match John Restivo. The Nassau County District Attorney's Office argued the vaginal slides tested were low quality. The results were unreliable. The men stayed in prison. Here is what was sitting in a Nassau County property room while that argument was being made. An intact vaginal swab from Theresa Fusco's 1984 autopsy. Logged the day of the autopsy. Tagged, stored, complete and untested. A biological sample from a 16-year-old girl's murder that had been in a property room for nearly 20 years, while three other men served her sentence. Nobody tested it. For almost 2 decades, nobody appears to have acknowledged it was there. In 2003, a lawyer named Nina Morrison at the New York Innocence Project was reviewing Nassau County property records for the Restivo-Halstead-Kogut case. She found the swab. She had it tested. The DNA on the intact vaginal swab confirmed what the earlier results had suggested. None of the three convicted men were a match. The biological material on that swab belonged to an unknown male who was not in any criminal database, and was not John Kogut, and was not Dennis Halstead, and was not John Restivo. In June 2003, after 18 years in prison, all three men were released. The Nassau County District Attorney's Office was still not finished. They retried John Kogut in 2005 because his videotaped confession still existed and they believed a jury would still accept it. Their new theory at retrial was this: Theresa Fusco had consensual sex with an unknown male before her murder, which explained the foreign DNA. The three men had still committed the rape and murder. The unknown DNA was irrelevant. On December 21, 2005, Nassau County Judge Victor Ort acquitted John Kogut after a 3-month bench trial. The judge found the confession not credible. He did not believe the hairs in Restivo's van had ever actually been in that van. 1 week later, prosecutors dropped all charges against Restivo and Halstead. In 2014, a federal jury deliberated for 2 hours before awarding John Restivo and Dennis Halstead $18 million each, $36 million total, against Nassau County and the estate of Detective Joseph Volpe. The jury found that Volpe had planted evidence and withheld evidence in the case. $1 million a year, John Restivo said after the verdict. It isn't going to give me back those 18 years. The most important thing to me was that the county is finally held accountable for ruining my life. John Kogut received nothing. His false confession had complicated the legal theory of his claim. In October 2025, a reporter asked DA Ann Donnelly whether she would apologize to the three men who had served 18 years in prison for a crime they did not commit. "No," she said, "because I don't owe them an apology. I wasn't even in the office at the time." While John Kogut was being interrogated in March 1985, Richard Bilodeau was 23 years old, living with his grandparents in Lynbrook, New York. His address was approximately 1 mile from Hot Skates, 1 mile from the Fusco family home. His name never appeared in the investigation. None of Theresa's family and friends, when interviewed by investigators, recognized him as anyone she had known or spent time with. He was not on any tip sheet. He was not among the hundreds of people questioned in 1984 and 1985. He was not in the room when detectives held public meetings about the case. He was 1 mile away. While John Restivo and Dennis Halstead spent 18 years in prison, Bilodeau moved to Suffolk County. He settled in Center Moriches. He lived alone. He worked the night shift at a Walmart. He gambled on sports. He had a brother. His neighbors in Lynbrook, when journalists came back to ask about him after the arrest, remembered him as a troubled young man. He had no criminal record, not one arrest, not one documented contact with the law in 41 years. He got away with it. And then he said so. In the days before his arrest, when investigators spoke with him, he denied ever knowing Theresa Fusco. He denied any connection to her. And then, in what the Nassau County DA described as a flippant observation, he said something to investigators about the 1980s. People got away with murder back then. In August 2023, Nassau County investigators sent the vaginal swab, the same one Nina Morrison had located in 2003, the same one that had freed 3 innocent men, to Othram, a forensic DNA laboratory in Houston, Texas. Othram specializes in constructing complete genetic profiles from biological material that conventional testing cannot fully process. David Middleman, the company's CEO, confirmed to CNN that the 1984 sample was used to build a usable profile, the profile of an unknown male, 40 years old, preserved in a property room. The profile was uploaded to a public genealogy database. The FBI's Investigative Genetic Genealogy Unit, working alongside Nassau County investigators, began searching for distant relatives, cousins, second cousins, people who shared great-great-grandparents with the unknown killer. They built a family tree branch by branch, name by name, forward to the present day, looking for men whose ages and locations matched what was known. The tree led to Richard Bilodeau. In early 2024, investigators placed him under surveillance. They watched him. They waited. They needed biological confirmation that could not be contested, not from a genealogy match which identifies a family line, but from the man himself. In February 2024, Richard Bilodeau left his home in Center Moriches and went to get a smoothie at a cafe in Suffolk County. He drank it. He walked outside. He threw the cup and the straw in the trash. Investigators retrieved the cup and the straw. Under established law, there is no expectation of privacy for material discarded in a public place. The straw went to the laboratory. The DNA recovered from the straw was a 100% match to the DNA profile recovered from Theresa Fusco's body in 1984. 100%. The same swab Nina Morrison found in a Nassau County property room in 2003. The same swab that freed 3 innocent men. The same biological evidence that had been sitting in a property room since the day of Theresa's autopsy. It found him. On October 14, 2025, Richard Bilodeau was indicted on 2 counts of second-degree murder, 1 count of intentional murder, 1 count of murder during the commission of a rape. He was arrested. He was 63 years old. The following morning, October 15, 2025, Nassau County DA Ann Donnelly stood at a podium. She named him. She said what the DNA said.
Good morning. I'm going to begin by thanking the Nassau County Police Department and the FBI for their partnership. Nearly 41 years later, and after 2 decades of this case running cold, we have indicted Theresa's killer. Today, we arraigned 63-year-old Richard Bilodeau of Center Moriches for the murder of Theresa Fusco.
DNA doesn't lie. When you have a DNA match, a 100% match, we got the guy. She then told reporters what Bilodeau had said to investigators the week before his arrest. He said people got away with murder back then. Well, let me tell you something, Mr. Bilodeau. It's 2025, and I got you now. Thomas Fusco stood beside her. He reached into his suit jacket pocket and took out a small photograph of Theresa. He told the reporters he had never given up hope. He said he loved her. He said she lived in his heart. It's heartbreaking to go through this over and over again. But this seems like a finalization, and I'm very grateful. Concetta Napoli died in 2019 without knowing the name Richard Bilodeau. She died waiting. Bilodeau pleaded not guilty. He faces up to 25 years to life if convicted. His trial has not yet taken place. The verdict is pending. What is not in dispute is the biology. A 100% DNA match between a smoothie straw discarded in Suffolk County in February 2024 and a vaginal swab from a 16-year-old girl's autopsy in Lynbrook in November 1984. The Nassau County DA's office has declined to apologize to John Kogut, John Restivo, and Dennis Halstead. The trial is pending. The apology is not coming. John Kogut is 61 years old. He received nothing from the civil lawsuit because the confession he gave after 18 hours of interrogation, the confession a judge later ruled was not credible, complicated his legal claim. The years between 1985 and 2003 are not recoverable. Dennis Halstead's daughter ran a marathon in 2014 to raise money for the Innocence Project, the organization whose lawyer found the swab that freed her father. The New York Innocence Project has helped exonerate more than 200 people wrongfully convicted in the United States. The work Nina Morrison did in 2003, going through property records, finding a swab nobody had used, having it tested, became the foundation for everything that came after. The same swab that freed 3 men identified the fourth 40 years later. Forensic genetic genealogy, the technique Othram applied to that 1984 sample, is now standard practice in cold case investigation across the country. It has resolved hundreds of cases since the Golden State Killer arrest in 2018 demonstrated what was possible. Cases that had been cold for 60 and 70 years. Families who had been waiting longer than some investigators had been alive. The technology exists because investigators stopped accepting that some evidence was too old to speak. The swab from Theresa Fusco's autopsy had been in a property room for 39 years when Nassau County sent it to Houston. 39 years of trials and appeals and civil lawsuits and wrongful convictions and exonerations and settlements. It was still speaking. Kelly Morrissey disappeared from Lynbrook in 1984, 5 months before Theresa. They were friends. They wrote letters. Kelly has never been found. When journalists asked DA Ann Donnelly whether Richard Bilodeau was a suspect in Kelly Morrissey's disappearance, she declined to comment. That question does not have an answer tonight. Thomas Fusco pulled a photograph from his pocket. He has been carrying it for 41 years. In that time, 3 innocent men served 18 years in prison in his daughter's name. A detective planted evidence and died before a jury could fully hold him to account. A DA's office fought to keep the wrong men convicted and declined to apologize when the right man was found. And the man who actually killed Theresa worked the night shift at a Walmart in Suffolk County and thought the 1980s had taken care of him. Theresa Fusco was 16 years old. She wrote letters about boys to her friends. She tried to dress like her best friend Lisa. She worked at Hot Skates because that was where everything happened. She should be 57 today. She should have graduated from East Rockaway High School. She should have written Vicky back. She should have found out what she wanted to do with her life, and done it, and grown old alongside the people who kept her photograph in their pockets. She was fired from her job. She was crying. She was a few blocks from her front door. That is all it took. Subscribe to Dr. Depravity if this one is staying with you. And then drop a comment. Tell me, 3 innocent men, 18 years each, and the county won't apologize. The swab that freed them also found the real killer. A straw in a trash can. And Kelly Morrissey, still missing, 41 years later. Which part of this doesn't let you go? Thomas Fusco has the photograph. He still does. Kelly Morrissey disappeared from Lynbrook, New York in June 1984. She was 15 years old. She was Theresa's friend. She has never been found. If you have any information about Kelly Morrissey's disappearance, the Nassau County Police Department Cold Case Unit accepts anonymous tips. A small detail, something someone said, something someone knew, can be what closes a file that has been open since 1984. It happened for Theresa. It can happen for Kelly.